People who used to be straight A students but later changed. What happened? I lost interest. I felt myself becoming dumber. I realized that college is hard and not as easy as acing school, but that did stop me from feeling like I lost it. I used to get A's without trying. I coasted through a secondary school and the first year of college. I'm in the UK. Didn't revise for exams. Didn't do homework and still got good grades. Then the second year of college came around and it was a completely different ballgame. I trashed my second year and had to resit. I'm at university now, but I still have that laziness that if I'd worked hard from the beginning I wouldn't have a problem with. Likewise, I coasted through most of school without trying. Then at the end, everyone else caught up to me and I'd never learned to study properly. Went through a really bad mental health patch where schoolwork became quite a low priority. I realized through that I was wasting too much of my time and effort on something that didn't matter. I'm in uni now and still get relatively good grades, but I don't let them control my life. I had to drop out of my masters because of mental health issues. I could stay and die or leave and live. I chose the latter with a heavy heart. My high school was poor. I was not ready for college. To cope, I struggled as a C student. Got into some bad relationships. A little bit of weed led to lots of weed and a little bit of coke. I remember sitting with a policeman, smoking weed and asking myself, what the frick did I do with my life? And being glad I didn't get dragged into the jungle and robbed. So after that I turned myself around again. Thank you, random cop in Brazil. To be fair, high school is nothing like college. Professors don't give a crap about students that don't give a crap. No child left behind ends with a high school diploma. I did a cost-benefit analysis based on my own levels of happiness and comfort. Essentially, there are diminishing returns to working hard and potentially high costs to mental health. Delayed onset PTSD, undiagnosed bipolar. Everyone knew but couldn't do anything about it because I was under 18. Parents wouldn't push for help out of fear that I would get locked up for life. It would follow me until I died. P.S. If your kid is having full-on psychotic episodes, please take them to a doctor. I got easy A's all my life without trying. Never tried on my homework or studied at all. Passed AP courses, exams and entered college with ample credits. First year of college was a breeze as well. However, second year hit me like a train. I wasn't partying too hard or anything, just the courses became significantly more difficult. I barely skirted by and was incredibly worried about losing my scholarships, which required I maintain a minimum 3.0 GPA. Second year I learned how to study for tests. Third year I learned to do homework, more so, doing the homework to learn instead of doing the homework as required. If I was comfortable with the subjects I would complete it. If I still struggled with the concept, then I would do unassigned work until I fully grasped it. Fourth year once again felt easy, but I was actually trying this time. I did manage to ruin an exam rounding because in a class of 200 people, I was the only one to get a 100% on the midterm. Depression happened. As an introvert, making friends in college and university was way too hard for me, so I just got so alone. Supposed to finish my degree last August, but I couldn't get my crap together. Failed 3 papers in that last semester, and here I am struggling to finish off my studies. Good luck. I'll be cheering for you over the internet. My junior year of high school, I got my first C. It was for a research project. In math class, I was that I had to write a freaking paper for a math class, so I didn't finish it. I was fine with it. To give this more context, I hated writing papers with a passion. I graduated and started getting paid real money for my efforts instead of accepting the first letter of the alphabet as adequate compensation for all my hard work. This guy gets it. Did the same when I worked more than went to class. Straight as up to 7th grade, but I was ostracized for being the smart kid and desperately wanted to just be normal, so I permanently became more apathetic towards good grades and remained a BC student. To graduate college with a 2.7 GPA, I was studying like 2 hours max on every test I ever took, never pulled an all-nighter, and was completely okay with just not even trying the hardest problem on the math sheet and turning it in 95% complete. Still got the internship's job though, so no regrets. It's so freaking stupid. Some kids will always pick on you for being different, even if that difference is a positive. It doesn't make any sense and just makes you look like a massive idiot to everyone else. Combination of, I started smoking weed and started caring more about socializing after school than doing homework and studying. Family issues. Still salty after a decade. I started to get it together once but then realized I'm not going to get anything out of it. Everyone around me is socializing, dating, and I'm alone and getting A in math. Screw that. Dropped everything to socialize and cope with my issues but did no help. Still barely got a computer engineering bachelor's at 26. I read a quote that said if you give 110% you get left with less than nothing. It changed me. I realized I was miserable despite being successful. Now I enjoy coasting through life instead of taking it seriously. Life is like that puzzle game where you have to construct a bridge to let the truck drive across, but the truck is you and the bridge is your decisions. In 6th grade, I realized that the effort needed to go from a B to an A is gargantuan compared to the effort needed to go from a C to a B. The former requires dedication and a lot of studying. The latter just required you to not be a freaking idiot. So I settled for being a B student. Went to college. It was kind of a shock at first because I got A's so easily in every level of school, every class, before college, and was in the top 10 of my graduating class. Then I got to college and was just average. I still got mostly A's and B's, with a couple BC's or C's, but it was a lot more work, especially in classes where the entire grade is based off exams quizzes. Not to mention the change in teaching when I got to college. In high school, most of my teachers genuinely cared, interacted with students, etc. In college, I had only a couple instructors like that. The rest were either TAs or graduate students, or the professor was far more concerned with their personal research projects and teaching courses came second. I was struggling with chemistry at one point. The professor would just put slides of the textbook pages with certain sections highlighted and just read them off. That was class. I did not do well. Picked the wrong course in university. I learned that just because I like to dish out science fun facts at parties to appear smart, and I could get easy A's throughout secondary and high school in science doesn't mean I'd excel at my degree in molecular biology. Most importantly, I turned out to be absolutely crap at molecular lab work. Careless, clumsy, no patience, no natural intuition acumen for research, and basically scraped most of my research-based projects. Ultimately graduated from a UK university with a 2.1, or roughly the equivalent of a 3.2 GPA, a decent, but also decidedly average score. I have reached a similar conclusion. Advice to others: don't study something you love. It will be ruined forever. Instead, study something you are okay at. Learning and studying are not equivalent. I could always learn anything I applied myself to, but studying what others think I should know is almost torturous. Got a job in my field during school and realized how insignificant grades truly are. Barring certain fields, grades don't mean that much. People are more interested in you getting things done competently. Started out gifted in elementary school. It slowly went downhill in middle school. I grew up in a bad area and was sort of a pretty shy kid. When I moved up to middle school, it was like starting over since over half of my classmates weren't at that school and the ones that were had regular classes while I was in some special academically enriched classes and later on magnet classes. I didn't know how to socialize and it was all happening so fast. Never found real friends to hang out with besides a few people. Turned into somewhat of a loner. Not to mention the magnet kids were sort of pretentious and rude. But not in a joking way. I just zoned out in a lot of classes and started feeling depressed. When I got to high school, some classes were okay, but for the most part, I started to feel even more apathetic about school. I stopped doing homework and only did all of the class work and often found it hard to learn due to gang members acting out and being disruptive and a mix of me becoming even more disinterested in school. I just went home to play video games all day like I did since I was in elementary to block out the real world. I graduated high school with mostly C's. I'm glad I feel a lot more alive these days. A very close person died in a car accident. She probably loved me and I never told her my feelings. I loved her. We could talk about everything. Sitting on a bench and just watching the river, talking for hours was one of the best experiences I have ever had. She also introduced me to ballroom dancing, which I lucky started again after a 4 years break. It still haunts me that I never told her. I always ask myself, what if she loved me too? Please, if you love someone, let it be your crush, your grandma, father or mother, doesn't matter. Tell them before it's too late. Medical school LOL. I still do pretty well, but the level of dedication needed to score in the A range is way higher than college ever required. Gunners should just kill us. I realize that a 3.5 plus is attainable while coasting, and still very competitive. The extra work and stress of a 4.0 is unnecessary since all it would prove is book smarts. Critical thinking and adaptability are so much more valuable in the real world. Depression. Up until a couple months ago, I was a straight A kind of guy. Now I'm in exam season after spending most of the previous year in bed and a depressive spiral. I won't get the A equivalent in university this year. My current plan is to try and pass this year, over summer work through my issues and come back next year in a better state of mind. I got my first B in algebra in 7th grade. I just had a lot of trouble understanding the processes and doing them exactly the way teachers wanted. It didn't help that my dad tried teaching me shortcuts that weren't in the standardized curriculum, confusing me even more. I cried when I got that first B. I cried and said I'd accept whatever punishment my parents deemed fit, because up until this point academic perfection had been expected of me. I tried my best and didn't get an A, so obviously I hadn't tried my best, right? There was always more I thought I could do. It took struggling through pre-cal and high school and failing the last quarter before I realized it's okay to suck at math. I used to be a 98% average student. Didn't so much enjoy school but enjoyed learning new things. In comes depression and anxiety. Didn't attend but still got A's. Got principal awards etc. Got into year 11. Constantly drained. Hair was falling out. Stressed. Got very sick very quickly. Had bad jaundice and couldn't keep anything down. Eventually my throat swelled up and I couldn't breathe properly, so mum took me to the doctors. Ended up I had glandular fever, bono, and also my liver was failing. Wiped out for half a year. Returned to school. Picked up on my work. Went back to straight A's and was doing very well. Got glandular fever again. Wiped out for another 6 months. Was told I could repeat the year that I had almost finished. The following year, no thanks. Dropped out, started working. Lost motivation along with my self-esteem when you realize that you only do what others tell you to do and not what you want to do. The whole deal becomes worthless and you just don't care about it anymore. I got a C in Spanish and my dad wasn't happy. Unhappy as in I was beaten for it. I remember one time he drove me to school where I had a robotics competition. He gets out of the car, tells my teacher I got failing grades and won't be going, then drives home with me crying in the back seat. He was yelling at me, "I hope you're happy." It was my first time learning a foreign language, so I didn't catch on so quickly. Right now, I know Spanish, Japanese, and Mandarin, and try to keep as little contact with my dad as possible. I didn't need that toxicity in my life. I later learned I don't need to be perfect. I still strive to do my best, but after I left home for college, I was okay not getting straight A's knowing there were no physical repercussions. I was part of a small group of kids in elementary school that met once a week from across the school district because we were AG, or academically gifted. We were all straight A students. We all wound up staying together through high school and many stayed in the city after graduation or came back after college. I've kept up with a few of them and was surprised at how little traditional success the majority achieved. And by that I mean they were successful in their own way, but not how most people would have expected from the smartest group of kids in a city of about 500,000. Here is the breakdown from the ones I kept up with or ran into later in life. 2 drug dealers, 1 prison guard, 1 veterinarian, 1 nurse, RN, but now a housewife. She was valedictorian also. 1 electrician, 1 C-level exec for a small company, 1 youth pastor at a mega church. 1 was stabbed to death by her boyfriend in college. I thought for sure everyone would be a doctor, lawyer, or the proverbial rocket scientist. Brain damage happened. I just graduated with my bachelor's in chemistry. I had a 3.6 GPA in my first 3 years. I was under so much stress that I tried to kill myself during my last year. I survived, but it left me with brain damage, seizures, trouble concentrating, and memory loss. I was 1 semester, 5 classes, away from graduation. It took me 3 years to complete those last 5 classes, with a 0.3 GPA. The failed classes don't go on my transcript, so my GPA is 3.19, but I feel like a complete fraud writing it on my resume. I just stopped caring. I didn't have the best family home, and my achievements didn't seem appreciated by them, so I just stopped caring. My 3rd grade teacher gave me a grade I felt was lower than I deserved. I saw the futility of fighting when something was out of my hands, so I did just enough to get by all the way to high school. Not me, but my son. He would sit at the dinner table every night and work so hard to get good grades. He would cry and get angry if he couldn't figure something out. When he was in 4th grade he started getting stomach pains. Sent him to the doctor, all kinds of tests, but they couldn't find anything wrong. Finally one night in the 5th grade he was so upset he was shaking. My wife and I told him it wasn't that important. Just let it go. Stomach problems largely cleared up and he never got another A again. But I think he is much happier. A really bad bout of depression really killed my motivation to try in school. I started sleeping through most of my classes because I had trouble sleeping at night and because it made me a lot more tired than normal. It took me a while to get through, but I'm happy to say I am doing much better now. I could get A's without trying too hard, and could do everything last minute with ease. Things changed when I got to college. Drastically. Found out I had ADHD. Straight A student from freshman to junior year of high school. Got distracted too much, mainly video games, during my senior year and my grades dropped. Luckily I still managed to get into the best university in my country. Got where I fat. Then in university I kept on giving into video games and had this mentality of winging it. Got lazy AF. I graduated with an average of about B to B+. Compared to most of my classmates who all got averages of about A to A. Luckily I did well in the entrance test and I got into the best law school in my country. Incoming freshman. Also managed to slim down. I got to stop being so lazy now, knowing I could easily mess things up there, especially with the dropout rate being so high, an indication of future difficulties. I got fricked over on a scholarship in middle school. I was in line for a scholarship program that would pay for me to go not just to college, but to a world-class private prep school for high school. And the school's administration intentionally fricked up the paperwork so they could keep my standardized test scores in the public school because they were on the verge of getting their funding cut. By the time all was said and done, we made enough of a stink that the principal and guidance counselor responsible were fired. But the damage was done. I was already out of the running. After that, shithead angsty teenager me took the lesson as why bother trying for anything. You won't get justly rewarded anyways, and started completely slacking off in school. I really wish I hadn't developed that mindset, or shook it sooner than I did. Took me till I was 21 and forced to drop out of college because I ran out of money to finally drop the sorry but mopey attitude. Straight A kid. Top of the class through elementary and early middle school. Then I started getting bullied pretty bad and developed some serious anxiety problems and spent my time focusing on social problems and friend drama throughout high school. Around the same time grades started becoming more weighted on homework, and though I kept doing well on tests I could never get all my work in, which mixed with apathy about grades due to my general mental state never got addressed. As a result of all this I ended up at a middling college with no scholarship. In college I finally started working through my anxiety issues and developing a healthier self-esteem. I started doing much better. And after getting subsequently diagnosed with ADHD and starting treatment I got back up to straight A's and was able to graduate with my last 2 years on the dean's list. And I'm now looking at some very rigorous and esteemed grad programs. It's never too late to turn around your education if it's something you really care about. High school was stupid easy. University was stupid hard. I was lazy and never learned proper study habits in my younger years because I could read the notes the day of before the exam and pass so easily. Being popular takes a lot of time away from homework. It's the right decision. Always be popular. Unless you're my kids, then you get the dang homework done. I always went overkill with homework and I think I spend all my FS. Now 0 are given even when it's life determining. For me it was the difficulty spike between primary and secondary. I settled for not getting a +S. Then I settled for AS then AS. Till I decided that 50% required to pass was good enough. Except it was not. All in high school and before straight A's were easy. Didn't have to try for anything. In high school I regularly skipped class to do what I wanted and hang out with friends, and a lot of times I would sleep through class and be perfectly fine as long as I studied last minute. Then college came around and old habits die hard and you can't really get away with it anymore. So instead of my 4.0 GPA in high school, I'm now about to be a junior in college and have a 2.22 cause I was lazy then and it's hard to break the habit. When I tried I got A's but nobody cared because there was always somebody better or smarter. So I stopped trying and got B's and coasted off those until the end of high school when I started to get C's because I chose pot over academia. My brain does two things very horribly: math and flat out memorizing. If you give me an essay question on a concept I get an A. If you ask me to memorize 20 things I get a D. Turns out college is a lot more just repeat the thing than explain the thing. I just really lost any motivation to do it. It used to come easy and after it became hard. I continued to try for a very long time but at one point I just gave up. Slowly forced myself to not like art so I could get a good job. Halfway through first semester of junior year of college I finally had a breakdown and stopped going to class and just got really depressed. Working on saving for art school now. Left the bulls everyone wins elementary school where you learned nothing and teachers were forced to give A's to middle school. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.